minutes late today. My apologies. But I had to make some tea. I definitely had to make some tea, but let me get some things situated. But I hope y'all are doing well today. Today we're going to be talking about the artwork behind me, because today is Art Behind the Art, where I talk about a selection from my art gallery. So this is an original painting by me called She's Royal. So we're gonna get into that. We're also gonna read a little bit from my book because this piece was actually, or is actually part of a collection that was inspired by the themes in my book. And so if you actually look at the cover art that I designed for my book, this piece kind of started it all. So yeah, all right, so let me get a little bit comfy, but obviously, you know, we have our standard things that we like to do. I was going to light some incense, but it's looking like I don't have the lighter next to me. Okay, actually, 1 second. I'm gonna go and get it. I'm just gonna get it real quick. Okay. Because I was like, I don't know, I like to light incense before every live, so it just would have felt weird if I didn't do it. But okay, while we wait for people to join, I'm gonna just like check in a little bit. I'm a little tired, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little tired, but I think it's like a hormonal thing. Like I think, you know, women, we have our cycles, which is something that we'll also be talking about today in regards to this piece. And I feel like, you know, because we have fluctuating levels of like estrogen and all of that, progesterone, yeah, it's definitely a time in my cycle where I'm a little bit more tired than usual. But today's still gonna be fun. It's still gonna be like chill. Okay, so we're gonna set an intention for today. And I think that intention that we're gonna set for, oh wow. The intention that we're gonna set for today before we get into talking about the painting and, you know, go deeper into the subject matter of today's live, I think I wanna set an intention of just, you know, being aligned with divine purpose. I think that, you know, there's so much noise in the world, and the intention of just like aligning yourself with a higher purpose, I think that can be a really worthy intention. So yeah, that's the intention I'm gonna set for us today as we go about today's live. So yeah, and then of course, you know, I like to read from this God Fashions book before we do each live. So welcome to those of y'all who are just tuning in. We're just getting started. I'm gonna be talking about my artwork behind me, but before I talk about the artwork, I do want to read some positive declarations, set the tone, set the vibe, because, you know, I don't want any negativity. And so I feel like when you set the vibe, when you invite positivity into a space, then, you know, it kind of like pushes out the negativity. So let's change the music up a little bit. Hey y'all, thanks for joining. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. But okay, so today we're reading, before we begin, from God Fashions, I'm gonna read this daily declaration. And this one for today is called According to Purpose. So it kind of aligns with the intention we just set of aligning ourselves with a higher purpose and a divine calling. So yeah, I'm gonna just read this, and if you feel like agreeing, for sure, tune in. All right, so today I speak over my life and my household that God's eyes will watch over us to keep us safe at all times. Because God is my keeper and my divine protection, I will not be touched by terror wherever I go. God preserves me. The plague of the enemy is far from me, and I will not fall victim to the destruction that wastes at noon. The sun shall not smite me by day, nor the moon by night. My eyes are shielded from every evil around me. God is my defense, my buckler and my strong tower. my hiding place in the time of trouble. God is faithful. God will not leave or forsake me. God arises on my behalf, and my enemies are scattered. And those who rise against me mount like wax before the fire of God. I am hid from all the danger that destroys in this age, because I am called according to purpose. Everything is working for me. I am loved by God. He loved me first, and God is at work in me both to will and do of his good pleasure. I have peace, and my ways are pleasing unto God. My enemies are at peace with me. I am secure on all sides. In him I overcome. My faith rises to another level in the midst of difficulties. This too shall pass like every other one before it. I rise with wings as an eagle. I escape unhurt. I am an overcomer. Stones don't stop me. I am strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. I achieve greatness as destined. Eternity is in focus and I cannot be derailed. My destiny is sure. I am a prophetic ambassador. Now is my time. I shine like the light. In Jesus' name I believe and I say amen. So the selected affirmation from today is, I am hid from all the danger that destroys in this age because I am the called according to purpose. Everything is working for me. And so there's a few like Bible verses that it lists in this book. So let me just checking into the chat. Okay, so DCVS, if you're saying I'm bad, as in like I look good, I'll take it. But if you're trying to insult me, you'll fall back. Okay, Eric Murkison says, beautiful voice, thank you. Thank you. So the selected Bible verses that I'm gonna state from today, there's like 5 of them, but I'll just pick like a couple. So Romans 8:28 says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. And let's see. Proverbs 16:7 says, when a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. Okay, so yeah, I feel like, you know, that always kind of sets the tone for us to have like a positive vibe going into the live. But like I said, today we'll be talking about my artwork, my painting behind me, and also just talking a little bit about the themes from my book that inspired this painting. But before I get started, actually this incense that I lit before, I don't know, it's kind of like doing a lot, like all the smoke is coming into my face, so I'm gonna move it real quick. Okay, let me just put it right here. Okay, so this painting behind me is called She's Royal, and it is from, sorry, there's like, this music is just annoying me. Okay, it's called She's Royal, and it's from my first painting collection that I did, inspired by my book, Force of Nature. And so if you want to check out my book, here's a close-up. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Waterstones, Booktopia, all of that. And so, yeah, it's a poetry collection, and basically the major themes in my book, we're just looking at Afro-Indigenous expressions of divine feminine energy, sovereignty and decolonization of mind, body, and spirit, specifically from an African woman's perspective. And so obviously Africa is a huge continent. There's so many different cultures existent in Africa and across the diaspora, but I felt like, you know, there are those common things that we all have in common, and I do think that a lot of African cultures did reverence, prior to colonialism, they did reverence this energy of the divine feminine, not only in their deities, but also in their cultural practices. So I'm gonna just pause real quick, check into the chat. Eric says, beautiful hand gestures, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. So yeah, just I guess I'll read you like the back of the book so y'all can have an idea, because basically this is what inspired this art. And for those of y'all who are just joining in, every Tuesday at 3 p.m. I do Heart Behind the Art, which is where I just talk about one of my artworks from my gallery. My business, Alaere Lifestyle, is an art gallery and fashion boutique where I sell my original artwork and fashion designs. And so, yeah, this is one of my pieces from my collection. If you're interested in buying it, it is limited edition. All of my pieces are limited edition, and so when they are gone, they are gone. But you can check all of them out at www.alaerelifestyle.com, which is pretty much my my username here on YouTube.com. But if you're just tuning in, so I'm gonna just read from the back of my book so you guys can know like what was the message that I was conveying with my book and how that translated to the artwork here that I created. So I feel like my editor, she did a really great job of like just putting it all together. But basically on the back it says, what is divine feminine energy and how can we channel it? Also, let's see, Odemi Pessu says, hi. Hello, thank you for joining. Okay, so on the back of the book, it says, what is divine feminine energy and how can we channel it? Let me turn down the music just a little bit. Force of Nature explores this question through the lens of an African woman grappling with childhood, womanhood, cultural identity, and the societal issues that disproportionately affect women. This poetry collection parallels the African woman to nature itself, forces that can neither be confined nor defined. In a world where African women are subjected to societal expectations and forced to sequester their complexities, Odemi Pessu pushes back with love, light, and vulnerability. With lyrical lines, heartfelt verse, and tributes to social justice leaders, Pessu lets us into all elements of her life, from romance and depression to self-harm and overcoming colonialism. Yet, through the trials and tribulations, she perseveres and relays the message that women must take ownership of their narratives. So Force of Nature captures not only the inspiring journey of one woman, but the collective experience of women fighting to honor their emotions, dreams, and agencies, authentically and unabashedly. So, okay, I feel like there's so much going on in the world right now that it really is important to talk about being sovereign as a woman. I was doing a search on YouTube. So this piece is called She's Royal, and basically I really wanted to encompass this energy of regality and also just this energy of being sovereign, and like I wanted it to be earthy because like I said in my book, I do parallel African women to nature. I mean, it's called Force of Nature. So I do think that we are inexplicably tied and connected to the natural world around us, and that there's so many like lessons that we can learn when we just look out into nature. Like I'm literally looking out of my window right now, I see all these trees and I'm like, people, we are like trees. Women, we go through all these different cycles, and I think, I talked about this earlier in the live before anybody joined, but how, we go through these cycles. You have your ovulation, follicular phase, menstruation, luteal phase, like all of these cycles that we go through, right? As women, you see the same things in nature. You see the cycles of the moon, you see the cycles of the seasons. You see the cycles that trees go through, but what I love is that even when trees are losing leaves, like right now it's autumn in the United States where I'm based, even though like you see trees losing leaves, they still maintain their presence, they still maintain their identity as a powerful oak, or they're still standing tall. And so I did kind of like think about all of that when I was creating this artwork, She's Royal. And going back to what I was saying earlier, I think it's interesting this push that we're seeing to discourage women from leading at all. I think we're seeing a lot of this messaging and this indoctrination telling women that there's only one way to be feminine, or there's only one way to be a woman, when one, there's so many different archetypes. Like there's so many different divine feminine archetypes. There's the huntress, there's the lover, the mother, of course, but there's the sage. The sage archetype is someone who is very wise, who is, you know, and a lot of times an advisor to very powerful leaders, or who herself is a powerful leader. So, you know, we see so many different expressions of divine feminine energy, and I think with this artwork that I created, oops, I'm kind of like knocking it a little. Oh, let me move it back a little. With this artwork that I created, I did want to kind of show that, yes, you can be beautiful, you can be strong, but you can also be soft as well. Like, and so I think like even the color composition that I chose to incorporate into this piece was very intentional. I wanted it to obviously, you know, be an African woman, be a Black woman, and I wanted women across the African diaspora, no matter where you're from, to be able to resonate with this piece. I know like when I've had this piece in art shows that I've done locally, a lot of the feedback I've gotten from Black women in attendance is that, wow, like I feel like I see myself reflected here. And that's the point. Like I don't think that, you know, a lot of artwork shows women from a woman's gaze. There's this concept of the male gaze, and you know, it's in film and literature and academia and all of this stuff, but basically the male gaze is just this voyeuristic element in the consumption of artwork, or even in the creation of artwork, whether it's literary art or visual art or even film. And it's filtered through the gaze of a man. And so, you know, if we live, because we live in a patriarchal society, everything we kind of encounter is filtered through the male gaze. And so I kind of wanted to challenge that. What if I started depicting women, you know, through my eyes and through my lens as an African woman? And so, of course, that is like also what influenced this artwork. So let me know, you know, what this piece is saying to you in the chat. I'm definitely intrigued to know what you guys are thinking. Okay. So Michael Hart, hi, thanks for contributing to the chat. Says my lore. I don't exactly know what that means. Sorry, also my phone's a little bit far, so I'm like squinting, like, what does that say? But yeah, like I think, you know, there's so much that I could say about this work of art, but I do want to share a poem from my book, you know, just to kind of like relate it all back. But before I do, a sip of tea. Oh, I love tea. I feel like lately I've been having my iced coffee, but there's something about tea, like a green tea, peppermint tea mix. But anyway, so like I said, Force of Nature, my book, it really inspired this painting and all of the other paintings in this collection. And so I do want to read something from here and kind of like, I don't know, I just like want to share something from my book that I think could relate back to this. Let's see. But yeah, if you do want to check out my book, it is on Amazon, Force of Nature by Odemi Pessu. But yeah, just a quick overview of the book. So every chapter was named after an element of nature. So the first chapter is water, that which nourishes us. The second chapter is thunder, that which shakes us. The third chapter is fire, that which emboldens us. And the fourth chapter is soil, that which we grow from. And the last chapter is wind, that which carries us. Okay, so I'm still kind of deciding like what would be the best poem to read, but okay, I think I know which one. So I'm gonna read a poem from my wind chapter, which is the final chapter in my book, and I do think that this chapter relates back to the messages I was just talking about in my artwork. Hi y'all, if you're just joining in. Today is Heart Behind the Art, so I'm talking about my artwork here. She's Royal from my art gallery. And you can purchase it if you're interested on AlaereLifestyle.com. So yeah, I'm gonna just read a poem from my book that I think kind of embodies the message behind this artwork. And so this poem is in the Wind chapter, and it is called We. Okay, so let me begin. We. The power of she, a steady drum. She leads beat upon beat, hit yet alive, she succeeds, pushing to thrive. Be alive. The power of we, fabric of clouds, we rise, thread upon thread, frayed, never undone. We climb, painting pictures of hope. Be alive. We are Fumilayo Kuti, we are Brenda Fassi, we are Lupita Nyong'o, we are Her Excellency Dr. Joyce Banda, we are Amaata Adu, we are Buchi Emecheta, we are Winnie Mandela, we are Mariama Ba, we are the revolutionaries of our time. We, African women, pillars, mountains, shakers, support and steady, breaking yet standing, building and growing, transcending time, space, and power to be. We are the futures we sow so faithfully into. Vested in us, worlds of hope, imaginings to be, we. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so I'm seeing some action in the chat. But yeah, so that was a poem in the Wind chapter before I check out these comments. Okay, so Rahul Das says, Alaere, heart, praise the Lord, hallelujah, heart. Okay, hey, thanks for tuning back in. Hallelujah, amen. I always love that positive energy that you bring. So if you're just tuning in, welcome. So today is Heart Behind the Art, where I talk about my artwork, my original piece from my gallery. It is a different piece that I feature every single week. I'm here 3 p.m. Eastern, and so every Tuesday is Heart Behind the Art, and I'll be able to go deeper. But also feel free to ask questions if you're looking at this piece and you're like, I don't know, you're just inquisitive about what is the meaning? Why did I make it? What am I hoping to say, not only with this piece, but just in general with my artwork? I'm always happy to answer questions. That's kind of the point of this live. And as I continue to do these, I do feel it's super new right now. I just started going live last week, so still, getting into my groove, but as more people join the Alaere Lifestyle community, which I do encourage you to subscribe so you don't miss when I do go live every weekday at 3, but I feel as more people join, I'm really excited to see how this community evolves. Okay, okay, I'm checking into the chat right now. Rahul says, as always, you're looking damn gorgeous today, like a mermaid. That is so funny. Okay, y'all, so that reminds me of a funny compliment I got the other day. So where my family is from, the Niger Delta, there's a lot of folklore, spiritual folklore in Nigeria, right? About I actually have a poem about this called, there's a deity, or not a deity, I wouldn't call her a deity, she's a spiritual character in our cultural folklore called Mamiwata. And I remember I told this guy I was from where I'm from, River State, Bayelsa, Wari, and he was like, oh, that's why you're looking like Mamiwata. And I'm like, that is just so funny, but I promise that's not me. Okay, I am a child of God, okay? Because in the folklore, Mamiwata, she's this really, really beautiful woman, and she, entices men. She lures them, she seduces them with her beauty and her smile. Kind of like a siren, yeah. She's very similar to sirens, which are, prevalent in Greek folklore and like mythology. So this is like the African or Nigerian equivalent. And yeah, so like so Mami Wata, she's a mermaid spirit essentially, and she seduces these men. But if the men fall in love with her, they have to like sacrifice something. So either they can't like have children or something. I think, yeah, either they can't have children or she gives them a lot of riches and they can't have children. I think that's what the folklore says. So I think it's always very interesting, you know, when people are like compare women to that. I think it's like just very funny because I'm a nerd and I think about the history of it all. Okay, so let me scoot forward and see like what these comments are saying. Okay, so LOL. Rahul, I don't know. So I think Rahul is talking about, I don't know what. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna let y'all read the chat. But so basically, yeah, going back to my painting, She's Royal. So when did I create this painting? I think I created this like 2022 or 2023, maybe. It's been a while, and it is still a part of my collection, but like I said earlier, once they are gone, they are gone. And I'm just like checking into the chat. But yeah, like I think I wanted to also, so I talked about how like I wanted this painting to just really be a visual story of the regality of African women. And as you'll see, there's no crown, but there is hair on the woman. And I think that a lot of times, like African women, black women, black women across the world, like whether you're African American, whether you're black American, whether you're in Africa on the continent, or whether you're, you know, in Afro-Europe, as you would say, like, I think there is a lot of politicization of our hair. And your hair is your crown. Like, even when you look in the Bible, an example of this that we see is like with Samson, right? Samson's strength, even though, you know, this is a woman, Samson is a man, but bear with me. Samson's strength was tied to his hair. And so when Delilah cut off his hair, like, that took away a lot of his power. And so when we see this subjugation of African women's hair, like we're told, oh, we can't wear it in its natural state, or even when we choose to like play around with different styles, because I know me, I'll wear an afro one day, I'll wear braids the other day, I'll wear a silk press the other day, then let's say I'm gonna like try a different color, I'll wear a wig like that's a like red, blonde, like I love to change my hair because it is my own sovereign self-expression. But I do think that, you know, seeing the ways in which our hair is like policed and also politicized, it really does irk me because I don't really see that in any other group of people. And obviously, you know, this has its own historical foundation. Like there's reasons why we see, you know, efforts to kind of like subjugate the hair of black women in the United States. Like there are so many laws that existed in, you know, slavery, and then even like in Jim Crow and all of this stuff that affected black women and how they could express themselves in the United States. And I think that for me, when I was painting this, I wanted to have a very bold proclamation, a visual proclamation of this fact that we are beautiful and our hair is our crown and no one gets to tell us how to wear it. So I do want women, when they look at this, to see themselves reflected, but like it can be braids, it can be your natural curls, it can be, you know, any of the like, it could be locks, because actually this painting was inspired by a picture I saw of Halle Bailey. I think that's how you say her name. She played the Little Mermaid. She's a musician as well. But yeah, like I think, you know, there was all of this backlash when she was the Little Mermaid. there were comments about her hair and comments about this and comments about that, and like just not even, you know, talking about her personal life or anything, but like just like her expression of herself through her hair was definitely it was attacked a lot. And I didn't like that. And so like I remember seeing this really pretty picture of her and I was like, okay, when I create this portrait, it's going to be inspired by her. Also, I'm gonna move the incense over just a little bit because, all right, it was getting a little smoky up in here. But yeah, if you just are joining in, welcome. So today is Heart Behind the Art, where I talk about my paintings from my art gallery, which you can check all of them out at alaerelifestyle.com, which is my username.com. But yeah, so I feel like She's Royal. What was another thing that inspired it? Oh yes, there was the song. So music is something that I think plays a huge part in my visual self-expression. So the artwork that I do create, I think that musicians and music, because I am a singer, like I think that, you know, when I am working through a story that I want to tell visually, I do also kind of think about songs and lyrics that also tell that same story. And so the name She's Royal was inspired by this reggae song called She's Royal. I don't know if I can play it or if I'll get like a copyright strike. Let's see. Actually, let me see if I can like sing the chorus. Okay, because She's Royal, it's a really nice song. And I remember when I heard it, so like what will usually happen is I'll paint the picture and then I'll name it, but there are some pieces of artwork that I create where I'm like, I already know what it's gonna be named. I already know like everything that is going to encompass the painting, and then I just like do it. But this was one of those pieces I created where I definitely like had to kind of sit with it and then name it. But okay, so the song is called She's Royal by Taurus Riley. But I don't know if I can play the song. Like I'm not trying to get my I'm not trying to get a copyright flag. Let's see. How does it go? She's royal, so royal, and I want her in my life. I never knew anyone so one of a kind. The way she moves to her own beat, she has the qualities of a queen. She's a queen. And then something, something, something. Okay, but yeah, that's basically the song. So yeah, She's Royal. I think it's like a really good song. And so basically, he's talking about how, I'll read some more of the lyrics. What a natural beauty. No need no makeup to be a cutie. She's a queen. She's a queen. And when they ask what a good woman's made of, she's not afraid and ashamed of who she is. And so I feel like, yeah, pretty much I wanted the visual story to be like self-confidence. And I feel like when this painting is hung up in your space or in your room, you're going to feel inspired every day. Like I know for me, like when there was a time where I never hung up my artwork in my room, and I would just like keep all of my pieces in my art studio. And so I noticed that when I was kind of like going through a rough time emotionally and mentally, and just like putting a lot of pressure on myself around certain things, that when I hung up this painting, my whole like expression, my whole what's the word I'm looking for? Just like how I feel inside, it definitely transformed and it elevated. And I do think that art truly has the power to transform your emotional and your internal environment. So like artwork, when I create artwork like this especially, it's not just aiming to bring beauty into a space, I mean, obviously, I think beauty matters for beauty's sake. Like, I do think that human beings deserve to be in beautiful spaces. Like, when we look at historical periods like the Renaissance and all of these times in which beauty and architecture was so grandiose and opulence was really something that society felt like, you know, everyone should have access to. Like, you have these grand libraries, all of that stuff. Like, I do think beauty should exist for beauty's sake. However, I don't think that there's anything wrong with having an artwork, you know, like this one, or, you know, other pieces in my gallery and other artworks by, you know, other Black women that have a deeper meaning and also serve a spiritual purpose. They also serve an emotional and like psychological purpose, because I know for me, when I look at this, I'm like, okay, Odemi, like, you're seeing yourself presented in a way that is powerful. You're seeing yourself presented in a way that is divine, that is regal. And so, yeah, like, I mean, that's the point. That is definitely the message behind the artwork. But if you're just tuning in, hey, we're over here chatting. It is Heart Behind the Art, which I do every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And today we're talking about my artwork, She's Royal. And so this is a piece that I created as part of my Force of Nature collection. And so, yeah, you can check out my book, Force of Nature by Odemi Pessu, which is a poetry collection celebrating African women and divine feminine power. But okay, tea break. But let me know, like, you know, what is resonating with y'all in this painting here. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But okay, let me check into the chat. So Rahul Das, I don't know if he's still here, but he said, guys believe she's a mermaid. She acts like a human being. I know he's not talking about me. He's not talking about me. I don't know who he's talking about. Okay, let's see. Rahul says, sorry if it got over the limit. I'm not exactly sure. You know, okay, I'm gonna be real, guys. Sometimes I just nod and smile. Because sometimes I get some comments in the live chat. Now, I just started doing this like last week. But sometimes I get some comments and I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what are you saying to me right now? But yeah, like, I don't know. But also, okay, just a quick segue. So I am a full-time artist, and I do think that, like, for me, I just want to like kind of share like why I have been going live and like why I decided to start going live every weekday at 3 p.m. So subscribe. Because I think like as an artist, you know, a lot of my attention is focused on like, and you know, as an artist and business owner, a lot of my attention is focused on the product development of it all, which is the creation of the art, the creation of, you know, the books, the creation of the fashion designs, because I'm also a fashion designer, and like I get so sucked into that. But obviously, you know, we live in a digital world, and like, what's the point of creating something if you can't share it with people? And I'm not necessarily like trying to create just because I want people to like me. Like, I think that my calling to create artwork is a bit deeper than that. But actually, it's a lot deeper than that. I do think it is a divine calling. Like, there's no way I would have left corporate America to do this full time if God didn't call me to do it. And, you know, it kind of goes back to like the intention that we set today when I lit the incense earlier, and, you know, we read from the God Fashions book and everything, like being called for a divine purpose. I just feel like there's so much harmful messaging. There's so much messaging right now that tells women that they should be second-class citizens, like literally, like, and women are willfully stepping into a role that is less than, like, just less than. And I think that what I remember, at least from a lot of my gender economics courses in undergrad, was that if you want to change culture, if you want to like enact change in communities, a lot of times it's not going to go through policies, like policies and like, you know, everything that they do in Congress and all of that, it does affect us for sure. But when you really think about like what is affecting how you think about yourself and what is affecting how you like go through the world, it's the art you consume, it's the TV shows you watch, it's the music that you listen to, and it's really creation. And I think that, you know, for me, there's so much that I want to do to help women, and there's so much that I want to do to inspire young women, but I guess like I always just thought, oh, I had to go through it in a way where I'm like holding political office or I'm doing XYZ. But then like when I was in those spaces and I'm not being taken seriously because, you know, appearance. There is I've seen something on the internet, what is it called? It's like the opposite of pretty privilege, like pretty punishment or something, whatever. There's always these new internet terms, but I found that like intriguing because I remember watching this interview with Chimamanda Adichie. She's a really great author from Nigeria, and she was talking about how it took her off guard to see that like in the United States, in a lot of academic, you know, professional settings, women who look good and like who wear makeup and like care about fashion are seen as like not serious, even if they're super duper smart, and even if their resume speaks to their qualifications and their skills. It's like kind of this false dichotomy, like you can either have beauty or brains. And me, former pageant queen, I'm always going to want to, you know, do the makeup, do the hair, like dress up, wear the dresses and stuff. And I don't think that takes away from my ability to be a leader, or my ability to be a role model, or my ability to like enact change in my community. And so I think for me, like why I turned to artwork, or why I felt more comfortable like kind of leaning into this greater purpose through artwork and through literature, is that it gives me more space to be all elements of myself and like all of these unrestrained expressions of myself. And I think that all ties back to she's royal, because a queen does not bow down to anybody. And there's a quote by Bob Marley that I really like. He says, "I do not come to bow, I come to conquer." And I don't think it's about conquering other people, but I think it's about conquering the limiting beliefs that societal dogmas and cultural restrictions try to place on us. I think it's about conquering our fears. I think it's about conquering, you know, and I think, you know, being a queen is about conquering all of these things. I don't necessarily think being a queen is necessarily about like popularity per se, because a lot of women who are speaking up right now are ahead of our time. Like there are things that we're seeing right now, and those of us who are choosing to kind of like knuck and buck against it a little bit, we're kind of, you know, ahead of our time, in the sense that we are going to look back on this time period and be like, whoa, why did this happen? And those of us who are actually, you know, using our gifts to make a difference, using our gifts to kind of challenge these oppressive norms and these limiting beliefs that society wants to push on women, we're going to look back on this time and be like, okay, I'm happy that I used my life force energy to do that. I'm happy that I channeled my divine feminine power into being light and being love. And so, yeah, you know, I think that is what She's Royal is about. That's what my artwork and my art journey is about. I just felt like it was necessary for me to express that, because it's not easy. It's not easy being an artist. Okay, it's not easy, you know, having to kind of like, also like being a founder. We talked about this yesterday during Alaere Book Club. We're reading Your First Million by Arlen Hamilton, a really great book. She's a venture capitalist. She invests millions, like multi-millions of dollars into businesses by underrepresented founders. And she was talking a lot in the book yesterday, which tune in next Monday, 3 p.m. She was talking a lot about just kind of like how she'll enter rooms and automatically people just like assume, you know, the worst. Like they assume that she's not qualified, or they assume, you know, that she can't do the job and XYZ, so on and so forth. And I totally resonate with that because, you know, I think it's like a lot of times, I mean, I've literally been told in a corporate role, straight out of college, you're too pretty to do this. You'd be better off like looking cute in meetings. I was told this by a VP at a company I was working at. And like a lot of that harmful rhetoric, I think definitely does make women feel like we can't show up as our full selves. And so, you know, someone asked me in another live last week, like, do I identify as a feminist? And I know that like a lot of what I'm saying right now like may seem like feminist rhetoric, but you know, I have my own qualms with the movement, okay? Because I'm a Nigerian American woman and feminism just is not as intersectional as it should be. So I always like to say, and I said this in my book, I am not a feminist, I am a revolutionary, okay? Like I'm about decolonization, baby, decolonization of mind, body, spirit. And decolonization of your mind as a woman means stepping away from internalizing that male patriarchal gaze, that gaze that tells you that you're only good for looking pretty on some man's arm, or like the best thing that you can do is present heirs for a man. Like motherhood is a beautiful thing, being a wife is a beautiful thing, but I think this idea that a woman cannot do more than that is wicked. It's a very wicked idea. Like I don't agree with that. Like how is it that God made us in God's image and we're supposed to like shrink ourselves into these small, tiny boxes to make other people comfortable? Like no. And I think this all ties back to my artwork. She's royal here. Look at the material. And I think it all ties back to that because, you know, with She's Royal, I really wanted it to be this bold, in your face, but still beautiful, still regal, still somewhat soft expression of I am here, I'm meant to shine, and I'm meant to do what I'm here to do. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, I'm kind of like feeling a little worked up, like maybe I should read another poem from my book. Because like when I talk about all this stuff, you know, sometimes I'm like, dang, Odemi, is it really that deep? Like, is it really that deep? But then, what was I saying before? Oh yeah, I was doing a YouTube search. I think I was trying to like see what results would come up, like if I used a specific title for a video that I was uploading. And oh my God, I saw this video of this woman basically saying that like woman, mind you, it's a woman, an agent of the patriarchy. Gosh, hate to see it. But I saw this woman talking about how women should never lead, that like men are just created differently. And I was like, are you mad? Are you mad? Is everything okay up here? Because like, where are you getting this from? It's not scientific. There's no scientific empirical research to suggest that men are inherently smarter than women. Like that's weird to me, you know? And so it kind of goes back to the various expressions of divine feminine energy that I was talking about. And like as women, there's so many like archetypes that have been present since the dawn of time, like since the inception of humanity. And like, you know, we have the sage, we have the huntress archetype, we have the lover, the mother, the mystic. What else is there? I think there's a few other ones that I'm kind of like forgetting right now. But like when I think about like the huntress archetype, right? Like that huntress energy is what makes women athletes so formidable. That huntress energy is what, you know, is present even in the natural world, in the animal kingdom, like where we see a lioness is able to go out and hunt to provide for her children. And like that doesn't mean that the dad doesn't. We need to let go of the externally push on us dogmas and kind of decide with our own sovereign minds what we believe to be true about ourselves. Because there are some women who have a disposition that's meant for certain things. Me, I'm not an athlete. I'm not. I cannot say that I am. But I know that I have a lot of intellectual prowess. Like, I'm competitive when it comes to academia. I'm competitive when it comes to business, you know, and like, I like to compete in that realm, but don't put me on the soccer field, don't put me on a basketball, I can't do it. And that doesn't mean that that is true for every woman. You know, there are some women who it's like, they're, like, look at Serena Williams, right? She was meant to play tennis. I was not meant to play tennis. Does that mean that she's less of a woman because she does that? Like, or does it mean that I'm less of a woman because I like to read? Like, literally yesterday someone said, "You're so beautiful, why are you always reading books?" And I was just like, honey, it's not mutually exclusive. It's not mutually exclusive. Like, come on, let's expand our minds. So, you know, this all ties back to my painting here, She's Royal, because I feel like when women see this painting, especially African women, because, you know, we come from really traditional backgrounds, like, I get it, like, a lot of us come from backgrounds where the culture does kind of make it feel like if you don't have a man, if you're not married, if you don't have, you know, basically you're not in proximity to a man, there's something wrong with you. And I feel like it was important for me, even though I do have artwork that celebrates love and divine union and partnership between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, I think it was important for me to make artwork like this in this specific collection, where you see the woman as a soul entity, as a singular sovereign entity, not controlled, not, you know, tied to anything but the divine. And yeah, so I feel like, you know, we've talked a lot about like the themes and the ideologies and just the mindset that I was in when I created this, and it's still a mindset I'm still in. But I think, like, you know, a lot of what I believe has certainly intensified, especially as I witness what is happening in the United States domestically. Like, I find it quite interesting. You know, it's a lot happening, but I don't think that we need to be in despair. I don't think that we need to be in despair. So I do want to, okay, let's see how long we've been on here. So it's almost reaching an hour. I have been doing like longer lives lately, but you know, I do have somewhere to be. So I'm gonna be able to, like, you know, end this at a reasonable time. But before we conclude today's live, I do want to read another poem from my book. And by the way, this live I will definitely post the replay. So all my lives, whenever we conclude them, I make sure that they go up on my channel. So anyone who wants to tune in and watch them over, you are more than welcome to. In fact, I encourage you to. I invite you to. And I also invite you to subscribe. Subscribe, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. But yeah, like, I feel like today was really chill, but I do want to read another poem because when I said I'm not a feminist, I am a revolutionary. It made me think of this particular poem where that quote is from, which I feel like that's so cool that I get to quote myself. Love that. But this is in the one chapter, so if you just joined in, hi, we're reading from Force of Nature by Odemi Pessu, my book. And I feel like, you know, my book, I've talked so much, like, I could go on and on and on. But, you know, I'm gonna leave it at this, that, well, one, everything I'm about to read is going to, like, kind of encompass, like, everything I've said thus far. But I think the final thing I want to say is, as a woman, you were also made in the image of God. This idea that God is this man, like, man made God in their image. Okay, like, man tried to create this idea of God as a reflection of man. But let's pause and look at the world. Who is wreaking havoc? Who is killing children? Who is, I don't know if I can say this word because of YouTube policy, but who is forcing themselves on women without consent? Not God. not God, okay? So I do think that, you know, if more women can see themselves as these divine expressions of God consciousness, if more women can embody their divinity, which was also the message here, because when you think about it, kings, you know, when you look at kingdoms and all of that, they are said that they are chosen by God. Literally, I just saw a commercial about, I think it's called The House of David. And David, like in the commercial, someone said, who chose you? Did someone choose you? And he said, no, I was appointed by God. So as a queen, because this is called She's Royal, and Alaere means queen in Ija, which is my mother's maiden tongue, native to the Ija people in the Niger Delta, who, you know, we've been there for centuries. When you look at it, queens are also chosen by God. As a queen, you were chosen by God to be this divine expression, this sovereign expression of love, light, beauty, prowess. Like, don't let anybody tell you that you can't be that. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't shine your light. And like, literally, this warm light behind her, I think, like, for me, it was something that I wanted to represent the sun, the moon, the stars, you know. I did want it to have this kind of like celestial symbolism, but more so, as I look at it now, it also feels like a light emanating from her, from you. When you see this, this is a reflection of you. You are royal. Okay, so, okay, I just wanted to say that. Before I read the final poem of today's live. But I'm so happy to have y'all here. Don't forget to like this video, heart it. I think you can heart lives. I think that's how it works. But don't forget to heart it and subscribe to Alaere Lifestyle TV if you like having these kind of conversations. I think it's so much more than women's empowerment. It's about reminding women of who they were created to be in the image of God. Period. Okay, so we're gonna read Force of Nature, which is the namesake poem of my book, Force of Nature by Odemi Pessu. You can check this book out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble Nook, Walmart, Waterstones, Booktopia, and so many other indie bookstores. If you just Google, like, you'll be able to find it somewhere. Or you can even buy a signed copy straight from my website. But I'm going to be reading Force of Nature from the Wind chapter. This is the last final poem in the book. So if you love this poem, if it resonates with you, totally get it. All right, so let's begin. Force of Nature. I laugh in the face of men who grab at air and fail, falling flat beneath me. I am not a feminist. I am a revolutionary. I tip-tap waltzing, tiptoeing never, always gliding to the promised land, that which is free, above all things, and flowing with milk and honey into the soft curves of my breasts, deep valleys that feed into a mystifying maze. My forefathers danced on a compound sprinkled with the blood of the colonizer and sang tribute to the sunken ships of comrades long gone. Because sometimes war means light, shining through the hurricane's eye. Because many times change means tears that evaporate from buoyant seas, sitting untouched, and new beginnings and unlearning and erasing and starting all over and becoming light. Daisies sprout from the crown of my head because light is in my smile, and the soft coil of my hair, and the smell of coconut oil glistening under a sky the color of gold, illuminating all that I am and all that is in me, reminding the earth's soil that once upon a time we were one. Until I was formed within God's unique mold, shaped with gentle hands under the meticulous care of a benign potter's gaze, the maker of earth's clay. Curator of delicacies that stretch through mountainous heights and flow through treacherous ravines, collecting peacefully at an oasis end. Gazelles graze at the pastures of my hips. Powerful oaks rise from the depths of my womb. The melodies of leaves that whisper to me remind me that I am a force of nature. That's like one of my favorite poems that I've ever written. Like, I still look at like, how did I write this book during the pandemic? I don't know. Like, but honestly, I like, if you've been on the live, like, you know, I have a lot to say. I have a lot of thoughts, okay? And I'm going to continue to express them. I'm going to continue to use my platform to have this type of discourse because I think it is so important. I think that art that reminds African women of our beauty, our regality, our divine connection to all that is, I think that is so important. And I think that cultural storytelling that preserves the Afro-Indigenous reminders of who we are in the image of God, I think that is also very important. So yeah, on this platform, you're always going to be encouraged to honor both beauty and brains. Your intellectual side and your, you know, your beauty, like aesthetic side, like it's not mutually exclusive. It's not, okay? But before I go, let me just remind y'all of the program schedule here at Alaere Lifestyle TV before I head out, which I also want to thank y'all once again for tuning in. And be sure to subscribe. So on Mondays we do Alaere Book Club, and for the month of October we are reading this book by Arlen Hamilton called Your First Million. And on Tuesdays are days like this where I just sit, you know, it's called Heart Behind the Art, where I talk about the emotional and cultural influences behind the artwork in my gallery. So definitely, you know, tune in every Tuesday at 3 p.m. for that. On Wednesdays, we do the Alaere Lookbook, where I feature designs, original designs from my fashion line, Alaere, and I do a, like, you know, mini lookbook. I kind of show you guys different ways to style some of the pieces. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. And then on Thursday, I do a, you know, really cute get ready with me inspired by the artwork from this week's Heart Behind the Art. So yeah, we'll be doing a makeup look inspired by this piece, which I think is going to be fun. There's a lot of like pinks and like auburn, like I think it's going to be really cute. You know, this is very much so an earthy piece, so I'm excited to translate that into a makeup look. And on Friday we do paint and chill with me in my art studio. So I've been making a lot of wearable art lately. I'm finishing up painting these jeans, which I need to just wrap it up. But we'll be doing that this week. And yeah, like that's what you can expect from Alaere Lifestyle TV every weekday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. But I'm trying to think, did I forget anything? Go check out. I invite you to check out www.alaerelifestyle.com if you want to support my business by purchasing one of my artworks. You can become a collector quite easily. Now, I will say all of the prints are limited edition, so once you get it, you get it. Once it's gone, it's gone, okay? But I do also have my fashion designs from the Alaere fashion line. So I just released a new luxury streetwear line, and then I have our handmade art infused 100% Napa leather bags that are available with my artwork on them. And there's just so much more coming, but I talked about this yesterday, like I'm working on accessing capital to expand beyond e-commerce and to have a physical space where we can have, you know, programming like this, where we can have live music and live poetry and art talks and artist talks. Like I definitely want to see a space like that exist. And I want it to be mine, okay? So, you know, I'm working on that. It'll probably be like a semi-permanent pop-up to start before we have like a boom, 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 permanent headquarters location. But it's baby steps, I mean, like we have to just take it one day at a time. Okay, but yeah, I'm so happy that y'all joined. If you enjoy this, be sure to give it a heart, like it, tell your friends to subscribe. Make sure you subscribe. And yeah, I'm so happy to have had y'all here. All right. Oh, also, did I remind y'all to buy my book? Did I say it again? If I didn't say it again, go ahead and check this out. Force of Nature by Odemi Pessu. If you resonated with the poetry that I read today, it is all original. No AI here. No AI, baby. Straight from my noggin. And inspired by the divinity that flows within me and within you. Okay, so you can definitely check this out. And I'm sending y'all so much love, so much light. Mwah. Love y'all, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye.